Yay! Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. It is Keesha Carter back again with another interview. I'm super, super excited. Look, I'm getting all kinds of alerts. Yes, I hope that you are ready. We've been waiting for this interview since September of last year. Let me tell you, if you are not sitting down, just brace yourself. Not only that, make sure you share, because I'm telling you, your sisters, your friends, your mama, somebody that you know is going to want to hear what's being shared today. Let me tell you, this amazing, dynamic, phenomenal. Y'all put the words on it. Y'all get a Maya Angelou book and y'all phenomenally, yes, put the words together however you put it, and you have described our special guest for today. But before we get into this, okay, I want to first say welcome to Interviews with Keesha Carter. I am the CEO and founder of Serenity, Courage, and Wisdom Incorporated. If you haven't been following us, start today. Go to SCAWINC.org. It's going to be in the comments. Click there so that you can see what we are into, what we are all about, and how you can help, right? So we have been doing interviews with cancer survivors, caregivers, people in the medical, within the gynecologic cancer community, medical professionals. And what is so cool, Wednesday is the beginning of Gynecologic Cancer Awareness Month. Also, Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. So, I mean, I feel honored that we get to kick this week off with this dynamic guest. Y'all, I've been following this woman after being diagnosed myself with stage 3 cervical cancer in 2009. I've been following this amazing woman since then. Our guest speaker, our guest for tonight or today, whenever you're watching it, is an award-winning, yes, I said it, award-winning television producer and host, international keynote speaker, author, and patient advocate. I'm telling you, y'all haven't shared, you better hit that share button right now. Hit it right now. I'm telling you, don't want to miss it. After a diagnosis of cervical cancer in 2001, at the age of 25, okay, our special guest decided to use her experience and her voice to help educate other women about ways to prevent cervical cancer. She is a 20-year, 20 years. Thank you, God.
Yes.
20 years.
Amen.
When I'm telling you, when I heard her story, when I was going through my own bout with cancer, her story gave me hope. I'm like, wow. You know, when I heard that she was diagnosed in 2001, I was diagnosed in 2009. So she showed me, you know, by her still being here to tell her story, that there was hope for me. I had stage 3, y'all. Farrah Fawcett was on her deathbed during that time. I didn't know if I was going to be here, but I thank God that I am here 12 years later. But just thinking about it, 20. Come on, y'all. Some people haven't even been married 20 years. Some people may not ever see 20 years, but thank you, God, for her life. As she says, Survivor, Cervivor, Survivor. She is the chief visionary at Survivor, a nonprofit dedicated to cervical cancer advocacy and support. Our special guest is an author. Her book, Seriously, What Are You Waiting For? 13 actions to ignite your life and achieve the ultimate comeback. You want to get that book, make sure you stay tuned so you can find out how. She's helped countless patients restart their lives beyond cancer. Beyond cancer. If y'all don't know, that life after cancer is still just as serious and just as important as you going through. So without further ado, I'm so excited. Y'all give it up. If you have not met this dynamic woman, you will tonight. Our phenomenal guest is none other than Miss Tamika Felder.
Hi. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Hey, I mean, there are some people in life where words just isn't enough. And I mean every word that
I felt it.
Whenever I found you, it really inspired me and gave me hope when I didn't have my own hope. Sometimes when we look at other people pushing through what they're going through, it is our yes to fighting, our yes to living is someone else's hope to keep going. So that's what it was for me, experiencing, watching you after your treatment and starting your business. So I want to hear all about that. But first, let's talk about it. How did that happen? Like, how, when were you diagnosed? How old were you? Let us know more about Tamika before cancer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was diagnosed in 2001 at 25, and it literally was a life-altering experience. I think now, cancer is talked about so much. There are people who, we hear cancer stories and we see them in movies and TV shows and videos. And, when I was diagnosed, cancer was still a death sentence. It was still, I'm originally from South Carolina. It was like kind of, she got cancer, or, you whisper things. And then to have a cancer that's linked to a sexually transmitted virus, that's a whole other layer of ish that's added, compounded on top of everything else. And so, when you hear those words, you have cancer, there's no way to prepare for it. So for me, it was just, I thought I was going to die. I literally heard those words, and the doctor might as well had said, you have cancer, you're going to die. Because in my mind, that's what I heard, that's what I felt. So that spirit of survival, yes, it does kick in, but you are so just paralyzed by those words. And, I've had ministers, say to me, but what about your faith? But in that moment of hearing it, and I'm always going to tell my truth, especially for people who hear those words, like, you want your faith to kick in, you want to believe, you want to feel it, but it wasn't immediate for me. For me, the immediate part of it was, you have cancer, you're going to die. And of course I started, my fervent prayer and really like trying to see myself as a survivor. But in 2001, what I saw was people who were sickly. When you hear the word cancer, people who succumb to it. And it really wasn't a part of the survival story for me. And so I wanted to live. I wasn't ready to die. It wasn't, I never felt that if it's my time, it's my time. It wasn't my time. I was 25, and even at 46, God forbid if I was diagnosed with cancer right now, I'm not ready to die. I'm not ready to go. I have so much more life to live. And so for me, when I was diagnosed, I didn't believe it. I was one of those people, I wasn't getting screened. So my message to people are always do the preventative screenings. I don't care how scared you are. I don't care lack of insurance, whether you're underinsured, you're not insured, whatever it is, find a way, reach out, get help. There are a lot of support services out there. And because of the pandemic, screenings are behind. The hospital beds are so filled with COVID patients that routine exams for breast cancer and cervical cancer and colon cancer screenings are behind. And so that's another layer of being behind, especially if you're someone who wasn't already getting screened, but I won't get on my soapbox just yet. So
that's good.
I was one of those people that wasn't getting screened for various reasons. One was, as a broadcast journalist, I didn't always have insurance. And at 25, honestly, I didn't care. That's not my story now. Now I want to know what the benefits are, what they look like. I'm on my husband right now about changing our plan, because I read it from beginning to end. I want to know what, is covered, what isn't. And Also I had a doctor that body shamed me. And at 25, you feel invincible, that maybe you don't
Yeah,
have to do those screenings. And, that put my life in jeopardy. There are times that I blame myself for that. I'm not, there anymore. What happened. This is my story. What matters to me is what I do now with the time that I have left
that's
on
right.
this earth. And that means that, I want to make my survivorship count. Everything that I've been through now, I want to make sure that I'm living life every single day. So living life may mean that I am enjoying life with my husband. It also means that I just want to, be on my couch and watch Bravo or Netflix, or travel around the world.
Yeah,
Cervical cancer survivor who died at 33. She didn't like using the term bucket list. She lived a living life list. And that's how I look at it now. Cancer taught me how to live again. And I lived life
yeah,
before cancer, but cancer reminded me that life comes with an expiration date and we have to move forward.
that is so true. Oh, you said so much. I mean, that one of those things is taking care of our bodies, paying attention to what's going on with ourselves. But a lot of times we don't know because we don't get that preventative care.
Mhm.
So that's important. So if you're watching, tell your mama, sister, cousin, auntie,
Tell
niece,
yourself.
tell yourself. That's
Yeah.
right. Tell yourself, because there's so many, and I know she's been doing this a lot longer than I have. There are so many women that you come across, right, that have not, that
Mhm.
that are, they're women who are afraid to have a pap.
I
You know,
mean, no one wakes up and they're just like, it's pap day, and I'm so
come
excited
on,
to put my feet in the stirrups and have a stranger look at your cootie cat, your coochie, whatever, your goodie box, whatever you call it. Um,
right,
and then if the nurse has to come in, then there's another stranger, whether you met them
right.
before or not, who's coming in, then the light, then the paper, you got to scoot down, you all nervous, sweaty, the paper breaks, it's just
Yes.
it's not an enjoyable experience, but it's something that we absolutely have to do.
But imagine what we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
That is nothing compared to all the men and women that look at us in that position
Well, I
after,
mean, if
right?
you have to think about what you just said, part of the reason why people are not pressed to get screened for cervical cancer is because cervical cancer patients and survivors don't share their stories in the same way that people with breast cancer or colon cancer or lung cancer,
Right.
historically have shared. And so I think as more of these stories come out, more people will get screened because they know what the realities are like. Because I think if I had $1 for every time someone told me, cervical cancer is an easy cancer. You just get some cells scraped or burned off. If you don't catch it early enough, you get a hysterectomy and then you're good. There's so many stories of so many women
Misconception.
that I wish I could tell them about.
Yeah. So when you were diagnosed, Tamika,
Mhm.
what stage were you
2A.
diagnosed?
2A cervical cancer. So, really my cancer was caught early, but I also like to remind people that catching my cancer early meant that I had to lose my fertility at 25.
Mhm.
And I rather prevent it. And
Mhm.
so I never sought to be a patient advocate or tell my story in that way, but I tried to go back to my life prior to cancer. And I would sit at my desk and I would work on a story, I would do whatever, and then I would just get pissed off. I would get pissed off thinking about it, like, how did this happen to me? Like, is
Man,
it my fault? And then
girl.
I was mad at myself. And then I was just like, why aren't more people talking about this? And I was waiting for somebody to talk about it. And while I was attending, walks for other types of cancers with friends and supporting colleagues, I was like, what's my ribbon color? Where's my walk? Where's my t-shirt? Where's my water bottle? Where's my balloon release? And balloon releases, we don't want to do them now, for the environment. But at the time I was thinking, where are these things?
Yeah.
And, I think I know that's what patient engagement and advocacy is about. When there is a cause or something that you feel really passionate about and you want to do something. And I was waiting for someone to do something. And the great Dr. LaSalle Lafall, who's no longer here, who was at Howard University, I had an opportunity to be on the President's Cancer Panel. He and Lance Armstrong were the co-chairs. And one of the things that he said to me, he was like, why don't you do something? And then when I really learned the statistics when it comes to Black women, I knew that I had to do something. I look at, so many women who look like me who didn't make it. And I know that it could have easily been me. It could have easily been me. And that's why I tell uncomfortable stories. I share uncomfortable things about myself because I want to save lives.
Yes. And that right there, a lot of women don't want to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just having a conversation this morning about the pelvic area and how, as women, it's a conversation we need to have more often.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are things that take place below the belt that we don't know about. And by ignoring it, we can prevent things like cancer or incontinence. I mean, just from the little things all the way to the big things, there's help out there. There's physical therapy that I didn't even know existed, but there's help for us. And just, like you said, the body shame, those things, we should be having these conversations within our circles and within the Black community. Because
my stepdaughter, I've shared so much with her because I never want her to feel like she can't ask me a question. Sometimes she asks me questions, and now that I'm a parent, I kind of like, but I have to answer it. I'd rather her ask me, and feel comfortable with her body, and also knowing that you should be seeing a doctor. You should have a primary care physician. You should have an OBGYN. You should be on a regular schedule, a regular routine of being screened for things. And that be a part of normalcy in her life.
Yes. And so, speaking to young girls, did you have any symptoms? Like, what could you tell our viewers today about symptoms before diagnosis, and how did you feel? Were there things that you felt, or did you just go to the doctor and find out?
So prior to being diagnosed, I didn't really think that I had any symptoms. Now that I know what I do know about cervical cancer, I had symptoms, but they were things that, bleeding and, it might have been like a trickle of blood or whatever, but nothing that made me think like, oh God, I need to go to the doctor. Bad menstrual cramps, lower leg pain. I think when women have bad menstrual cramps, they take extra pain medicine or do a home remedy, something, a heating pad on their belly or the abdomen or whatever. That's why a lot of GYN cancers also whisper, right? So it's good to know the symptoms, but it's also best to have a doctor that you see regularly so that, one, they have your history, your medical history, but two, if something comes up, you have someone that you can call to. A lot of times, it's happened to me, you're going to the emergency room because you don't have a primary care physician. And you need an expert in that area. You need someone who is an expert in below the belt issues.
Yep, that's so important. So when you were diagnosed, how did you feel at 25 years old? How did you feel when you...
Scared. I felt alone. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like, they got it all wrong. Let me go get second opinions. And I was trying to find a doctor who would tell me that every other doctor got it wrong. But instead, I found every other doctor that told me the same thing. You have cervical cancer. You have to get a hysterectomy. You're going to lose your fertility. And, I'm almost always like my glass is half full type of girl. And I just knew that I was going to get out of it. I was going to find my way to get out of it. I was going to find a doctor that said every other doctor got it wrong. And it just never happened. And so many years later, I know that I was just that's what I was doing. I was trying to buy myself more time. I had my surgery, my radical hysterectomy, a week before I turned 26. And I remember asking them, could I have the surgery after my birthday? Because I wanted to make sure I had another birthday. And they kept telling me, you're going to have another birthday. But I wasn't sure. I was like, I want to have one more birthday. And I had one more birthday. I wasn't at the club partying, but I had a belly full of staples and stitches and, things like that. But I did have another birthday.
Yes, 20 years later.
Mhm.
Wow. So, one of the things I think is important is, especially within the Black community, we don't have those conversations within our families.
Mhm.
Did you have those type of conversations? Do you have a family history of cancer below the belt, or, did anyone talk to you about your family history with cancer?
I come from a large family on my maternal side and paternal side, and we have had almost every single type of cancer that you can think of. And I didn't know anyone except for a college friend that had cervical cancer. And I actually forgot about her cervical cancer experience until it came about a couple years later. Somehow I think a mutual friend reminded me that she had it or whatever. Cancer is one of those things that nobody really wants to talk about. Again, in the 90s, early 2000s, people still weren't talking about it in that way to normalize it. Now I think people in some ways are almost too desensitized to cancer, because we do talk about some of them. But it really was, my mother always pressed upon me to take care of myself. And that meant my whole health, right? And unfortunately, cancer was the catalyst, and it still took me a few years from then to really focus on my health, to really, honor this one body, this one temple that I get in a way where I'm making sure that I'm my healthiest that I can be. When I pray now, I pray for a long life, a long, healthy life. And so I'm, on a plan to be my healthiest ever. And do I love doing it? No, but I have to do it. And I'm also blessed to be able to do it because I still have life within me.
Yes, girl, I'm inspired just listening to you. I told y'all, if you haven't shared it, hit that share button, because you never know who needs to hear this information. One of the things that, another thing that we hear a lot, and I would think that you, being in this industry as long as you have, you've heard where people have had support from family and friends, and those that have not. Some people have had support who left them. What was that like for you? Did you have a support network, support team while you were going through? If so, what was that like for you?
I was blessed. I had the support of coworkers, colleagues, family, friends, friends of friends, family of family, friends. I was really blessed in that way. I was also not blessed with people who said some really crazy things to me. I think they meant good by it. Like, my son drives me crazy. Be happy you can't have kids. Or, it could be worse. You could have like a kid that drove you crazy, or you could do this, in terms of me losing my fertility. But for the most part, my family and friends and colleagues did support me. They brought the casseroles over. They gave me good, encouraging words. They lifted me up when I couldn't lift my own self up. What I was missing, and I didn't know I was missing it until I kind of got it, was other people who were diagnosed at 25 and who were single, who lost their fertility, kind of those similarities. I didn't realize how much I needed to have peer-to-peer support from someone else that kind of fit me, right? So while I had loving family and friends and colleagues, I needed someone to say, I know what it's like to lose your womb at 25. I know what it's like to have your body being burned from the inside out from radiation. I know what it's like to have chemo running through your veins.
Yes.
That's what I needed. That's why organizations like Immerman Angels with their peer-to-peer support are so very important. Family Reach, who people have financial, I don't care how much money you have or how little money you have, cancer is going to financially impact you, and people need resources. I had an employer who, even though I had a letter from the cancer center that said I needed 10 weeks, he was like, I can only give you 8. And in 2001, I didn't know what my rights were. I don't even know if there was a Bill of Rights for cancer patients then. Now we have great organizations like Cancer and Careers, Triage Cancer. You know, they're working to ensure that patients know their rights when it comes to their employers. I mean, most employers are great and good, but there are also employers who don't understand not only the emotional impact of cancer, because fighting cancer isn't just about the physical act of fighting cancer, it's about the emotional and the spiritual and the mental aspect of fighting cancer. And there's a whole financial toxicity that happens when maybe you can't work full time, and you have to decide whether you are going to pay for food, parking, co-pays for the appointment, you know, whatever medicine you might have to pay out of pocket expenses for. There's just so many things that happen. And sometimes you need support in that way. And so there are resources out there. And a lot of times people don't know about these resources. And so I like to share those as much as possible, because you feel so alone, you feel so isolated. And most people, if you're someone who knows how to ask for help, that's great. But most people, even when they're feeling vulnerable from the impact of cancer, they don't want to ask for help, or they don't know how to ask for help, or they think they may not qualify for help. But there is literally something for everyone. Maybe it's not the full package of what you need, but you have to ask. This whole notion of be strong, don't cry, said people who have never experienced cancer. Cancer is a cancer. It comes into your life and it just murks everything. It reveals relationships. There are people who I realized weren't the friends maybe that I thought they were, or relationships that, you know, changed because they couldn't understand that I'm different. I hate this term new normal, but it is because you have changed. And how can you not change when you go through something like cancer? You know, there's this whole push for cancer to be identified as a trauma, because it is a traumatic experience that you are living through. That's why when I tell people, you know, you're experiencing PTSD, and they think like, what are you talking about? I'm like, because cancer came through and just changed everything in your world.
Yep. And that is, it's hard to, you know, friends, family, people, like you said, on the job, people don't understand that PTSD is real. For, you know, you finish treatment and people see you going back to work, and it seems like everything's done, you're good to go. They don't see all of the scars that's on the inside, not just the physical scars, but like you said, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual scars. Man, if you are going through cancer right now, like Tamika shared, there are so many resources. Take a moment and reach out. We have 2 nonprofit organizations right here. Cervivor, can you share the information, how they can get in touch with you? I know it's more things I want to ask you, but I want to stop right now because there may be someone watching right now who wants to get connected to you. I think, like I said, so phenomenal. Tell us about Cervivor, what you do, and how it's beneficial.
So Cervivor is the nonprofit that I started to initially provide support, because I didn't want to be alone. I don't want anyone else to be alone. So I wanted people to have that peer support from people who are going through similar things that they're going through. Over the years, I realized how important it is to be a patient advocate. So there's a whole advocacy arm to it. Our Survivor School, where we train people to be advocates, survivor ambassadors, to really help in cervical cancer, because it is a cancer that on the horizon we can end. And that is an incredible thing. There's been this war on cancer for many, many, many years. And unlike other cancers, we know the cause of cervical cancers and several other HPV related cancers, the human papillomavirus. But so we have a vaccine that can prevent the virus that causes those HPV related cancers. For cervical cancer, we also have diagnostic tests that can detect the virus and detect the cancer. And so it really is a wonderful technological advancement to the first step in winning a war on at least cervical cancer, and then hopefully many other cancers to follow.
Yeah.
They can find more information about me at tamikafelder.com. Yeah, I want people to know that there is a life beyond cancer. A lot of my strength and my inspiration comes from the people who I meet, whether cervical cancer or other cancer types, the caregivers, the people who love on them. You know, my parents are deceased. I've gotten a lot of parents, you know, through this cancer world who support me, and, are mother figures to me. And, you know, we kind of lean on each other. You know, perhaps there's someone who lost their daughter. And so I can never replace their daughter, but I'm a daughter figure in their life, and they're a mother figure in my life. And, you know, sometimes those relationships you kind of look at and you know, but I think it's part of the healing for everyone. I want people to know that I try to lead by example, meaning that, you know, there's some points in life that you have to be adventurous. You know, you didn't survive cancer not to live. There's this wonderful gynecologic oncologist, Dr. Don Dyson. And one of the things that he said one time that really resonated with me was that I didn't just save my patients for them not to live. And so if you've gone through cancer, you know firsthand that it can be scary to live again, because you are waiting for the bottom to fall out. You're waiting for the cancer to come back. But in the meantime, you should still be living. And I've fallen into that trap too. You know, you want to be careful, but then you get to a point where, you know, you don't want to wake up one day and the cancer didn't kill you, but you let life pass you by. And so for me, how I make my survivorship count is how I live my life, you know, and I want to live my life doing the things when my time does come, whether it's from cancer or God forbid something else, you know, hopefully it's peacefully in my sleep. And if I do have a moment of my life reflecting before me prior to where I go, I hope it's with a smile on my face of all the sweet memories, and not filled with, you know, moments of regret for the things that I was too scared to do.
And you know, I love, love, love that you say that, because that's one of our, I guess, hashtags. I speak against cancer. And we often ask, how do you speak against cancer? And you just summed that up so beautifully. You know, the way that you live your life, being an example and living your life to the fullest, knowing that you know, that saying, I've gone to the grave empty instead of full. And
Right.
you pour out your heart, not just for other people, but also for yourself. And so, you know, you've if you could have one word or phrase that you would like to share to encourage women who are currently in treatment, what would you say? Or if maybe it's someone who's faced roadblocks in their process, what would you tell them?
Survive. And survival isn't, you know, 20 years from now. You know, you can just survive today, survive tomorrow. Sometimes I'm just, you know, it could be my to-do list. I'm just surviving today. You know, I've got a ton of emails that I need to go through. And it doesn't mean that I'm comparing someone's cancer experience to emails. What I'm saying is sometimes you can only survive in the now. You can't survive in the future. You can only survive in this moment. Worry about tomorrow. Worry about next week, next month, next year, 5 years from now, then. Sometimes you can only survive in this moment. And I know there are a lot of people who don't live that way and they can't live that way. You have to figure out what works best for you. And so for me, sometimes it's surviving in the moment. And so if it's one word that I could give anybody, survive.
Woo! I felt that. I mean, I literally felt that down to my bones. I'm not just saying this, y'all. If you understand, like, once you've gone through that, once you've gone through treatment and all of that, just thinking about that life after cancer and just hearing her speak about what she's been through, and for her to say that one word, survive. You know, every minute you're surviving. Every second that you can get through to the next second, you're surviving.
So when I was 16, the day before my 17th birthday, I survived the death of my father, who was my absolute best friend. When I was 18, I survived a terrible car accident in Mexico on my senior trip. And when I was 25, I survived cancer, and I never thought I would survive it in the way that I have survived it. When I was 33, I survived the death of my mom, who became my other best friend growing up. She was the one that, you know, kept me in line. So she wasn't my best friend, but after the death of my father, our relationship really grew to just us being inseparable until I moved away and I talked to her every single day. And then I've also survived a horrible, toxic work situation. And, you know, once you survive cancer or survive anything like that in your life, once you lose the people who are the closest to you, you don't want to put up with any mess, right? And so that's why I always talk about, you know, we all go through things that we are going to survive in life. And these things sometimes take us to our lowest. And sometimes people don't really know how low we are until we share our stories, until we give a testimony of what we've been through. And, you know, we're all surviving things. Sometimes some of us are just surviving things that are a little more harder, like cancer.
Right. Man. So we're gonna wrap up soon. Okay. 1 second. So what I want to ask you, this is something I like to ask everybody because we bring awareness through the creative arts, right? Do you like to do creative arts? And if so, what would that thing be?
So funny story. I have a friend, Kim, and she's a teacher, she's an educator, and she's always doing creative things. And I feel like I am a creator because I like creating content. I like creating videos because, again, background in video production. I love doing stuff like that. When it comes to art, I love seeing art, witnessing art, but I don't look at myself like paint and sip parties. I did my first one during this quarantine, and I was just like, mine is just gonna look like stick people, all this other stuff. And then my friend Kim had me come to her house to do a kind of painting craft type thing. Like, I've done vision boards and things like that. But what I learned is it doesn't matter what it looks like. The expression of the art is for the individual. And I say that to say that, do I like it? I didn't think I liked it until I did it. And it's something, this is why you have to try new things, because you never know what you will open yourself up to.
Yep. And that's what, you know, I love about the creative arts, because it allows you to express yourself. When, you know, I was going through cancer, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, I have a degree in theater. I have all of this art, music, dance, photography, all of this background with expressing myself and, remembering how it helped me to cope with some tough times in
Mhm.
my life. Why not use it
Right.
to help others? So, I just like to ask because I like to see how you express yourself. And so you do a phenomenal job with TV production in every aspect, and what you've done with, how your, company has evolved. Because
Mhm.
I remember, you know, how it was when I was diagnosed in 2009 and where it is now. Just phenomenal. I truly admire you and
Thank
what
you.
doing in the gynecologic cancer community, most specifically for cervical cancer research,
Mhm.
advocacy, and for survivors and their families.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. There's so much more I want to ask you, but I know we are out of time. I know we had some technical difficulties, and I want to truly respect your time. I mean, I have a list
You can
of
ask your questions. You can ask your questions.
well, if you have a moment, I would like to there were some things we talked about. Um one of them I think is really important. Not to say none of this stuff is important, but this is one of them. You expressed when we did our discovery session for this interview, you talked about your concern that information that is shared about cervical cancer is accurate. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, social media is great because, everyone gets to be a publisher. Social media is also a garbage can because everybody gets to be a publisher. And so a lot of times people are sharing information and they're looking at a headline and not really clicking the actual article to seeing who's the source behind it,
Yeah,
seeing, who's doing it or whatever, and information is shared. And then, your cousin shares it, your mama shares it, your friend shares it, their best friend shares it, and then it's
right.
spread like wildfire. And so one of the things I think that people really need to be more diligent about in every aspect, not only when it comes to health data to share, and also the social media platforms have a responsibility to make sure, and they're doing a better job. They could do it even better, but it's better than where it was, of making sure that they're flagging those things that are fraudulent or from sources that aren't reputable. And it's very problematic, especially when it comes to vaccinations and different things like that. Cervical cancer isn't something for people to think, well, that's not going to happen to me. It literally could happen to anybody. There's this misnomer that it only happens to poor people. It happens to poor people, but I've also seen it happen to wealthy people. So it can happen to anybody, and people do lose their life to cervical cancer. Unfortunately, people think that that isn't simply something that doesn't happen, that they
Right.
can get some cells scraped or burned off, or at worst have a hysterectomy. But unfortunately, there are people who succumb to cervical cancer. And for those who don't succumb, they are, left with a life altering situation, whether missing body parts or, being on medications, never being in remission, living life with cancer. And that is not to say that, it's just one of the things that people don't see. And so for me, I would just really implore people to really be cognizant of the information that they're sharing, and to really don't just share something without reading it and sourcing it.
That's good. That's good. Making sure you get information from reputable sources. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
would you, um, when we talked about lobbying.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like within the cervical cancer community?
Yeah, I mean, we've held a few cervical cancer days on the Hill. We participated with our partners like the Foundation for Women's Cancer, the American Cancer Society, and many others. I believe in people sharing their stories, especially Black and Brown people, making sure that they're included in these discussions and these mandates and these laws that will impact our lives and future generations. health disparities is something that is, just, I hate that there is a health disparities issue, right? Um, and I hate when people don't understand that, we can't depend on others to be the sole bearers of that change. And so it means that we are stepping up to the plate, and we are going and testifying and sharing our stories. We're being a part of the petitions. When the laws are changed, we are a part of it. And so I want people of color to be a part of the storytelling, not just, of support, but also what cancer care looks like in the future.
That's good. That's good. When you talk about cancer care, I'm going back to thinking about how we care for ourselves
Mhm.
during treatment and after treatment. I mean, people have asked, how should I eat, going through treatment, but also after treatment. And so I remember you mentioning the Survivor Slim Down group that Survivor has. Can you tell us more about that and any
Yeah.
other sources that you would recommend?
So Survivor Slim Down is one of our programs, and it's actually not only for cervical cancer survivors. It's open to all cancer survivors, male, female, any disease site, and it's run by a wonderful woman, Patty Marie Lacasa, who is a cervical cancer survivor herself. She's a retired New York policewoman, and when she was diagnosed with cancer, she went through this whole metamorphosis, and she lost 113 pounds. She got certified to be a health wellness coach, nutrition coach, an aging coach, a cancer coach, all this other stuff. And we are so blessed that she has volunteered to be our survivor wellness instructor and to lead us all into a healthier post-cancer life. For me, it's taken a lot longer. I've recently lost 40 pounds. I want to be like Patty. I want to lose 100 something pounds. I want to be able to be my healthiest. I look at Patty. Patty is going to be 63 years old soon. And, Patty looks younger than all of us. Patty's moving, doing her thing. And for me, and I know it's the same for Patty, it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel and longevity. One of the things that she's openly talked about was her mother being a diabetic. After her cancer diagnosis, Patty was diagnosed with diabetes and high cholesterol. And so when she went on this path from heavy girl to healthy girl, she led by example of showing us how, it can be done. I often feel that, becoming healthy, and again, not skinny, but healthy is one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And then I'm reminded that I survived cancer, right? And so our Survivor Slim Down, and it's spelled Survivor with an S, and it's a private Facebook group that you can find us, answer the questions, but it is a way to motivate you daily. We have monthly challenges, or just have support. We share recipes because we know cancer patients are unique. We have hip pain and bone pain and, maybe limited mobility because of whatever. And so it's a way for us to feel that we don't have to have the pressure of people who don't have cancer. And so it's a safe space for people to join.
I love that. I love that. You
And it's
said
not for people who just want to slim down. It's for people who just want to live a healthier post-cancer life.
yes, which is so important. I mean, I can't speak about anybody else, but I know that my body is different after going through,
Oh,
like
yeah.
you
Yeah.
said, and all of that. And so there are certain foods that trigger certain things, right? It triggers the way that our body processes food.
Mm-hmm.
So just being in that community, I haven't joined, but I will be joining. And just being a part of a group where you can do that together. I
Yes.
can
Yeah.
imagine
It's
how,
all about community.
huh?
It's all about community.
Yes, yes. So you said that it's essential. Okay, sorry. I may have to get off because I'm a little concerned. Um, it's I'm getting, yeah, I need to check and see what's going on outside. So it's essential to have people in your life who you can be your authentic self around. And then we can close out there. I think it's so important to be authentic. And
you can only be you. You can only be you. And if you're busy trying to be someone else, you can never be the you that you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
So it's great to have mentors. It's great to have people to aspire to be like, but it's important to live your life on your terms and be the best shining example of yourself that you can be.
Yes. And that's so important. You know, after going through cancer, if any of you are like me, I had to learn about my identity, knowing, being reintroduced to Keesha as I reintroduced the world to the new version of myself, as I built on my strength, my confidence, and all of that. So being authentic, being who you were created to be after going through one of the most traumatizing experiences of your life, I think that is so important. So you have been a great example for me, like I said. And so I thank you. I thank you for taking the time to do the interview that we've been trying to get done for about a year now.
Yeah.
I'm honored. And I hope that if you all who are watching heard something today that resonated with you, you heard something that you know will be beneficial to someone else, make sure you share. We're also going to put in the comment section Survivor's website, so you can connect with Tamika and the community, the Survivor community, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. And you can connect with us, Serenity, Courage, and Wisdom. If you want to get involved, because like she said, there's not enough Black and brown in the gynecologic cancer community sharing their stories. There's not enough of us even engaging, so you can work on that healing that takes place when you connect with others who have worn the same size shoe as you. They know what it feels like, right? They know how tight it is or how loose it is and how it flops or how it doesn't flop, right? We know what it's like. And so it's so much power, so much when I connected within the gynecologic cancer community. Find out what resources are in your area, because there are people who want to help you.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
You're so welcome.
And we will be sharing this. Of course, it's on Facebook. It's going to be on our Instagram, as well as our website. So if you missed it, sorry you missed it, but you can watch the replay. All right. So thanks again. Love you, Tamika.
Love you back. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye now. See y'all next time. Bye-bye.